African economies are really moving forward, fast growing in many countries. As you know, today, 6 of the 10 fastest growing economy of the world are African countries. Africa is one of the most fast growing continents. So today, it's a real opportunity of investment for all the international companies. And it's not only a matter of economic growth, it's a matter also of young population, because today more than 1.2 billion African in 2030 will be under 25. That's very important. It's also a matter of growing of middle class, so a capacity of consumption, very important. And also, Africa has done a lot of important reforms in governance, in doing business, that allows real international companies to invest in. One point which is also very important is that we have in Africa many integrated regional zones which allow to gain greater areas of market for international company. And we are going through an important momentum, which is the enter into force of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, and that will create one African market, which is quite important. It's the most important global agreement between countries since WTO agreement. So that's very important. Africa is really in a big mutation, and I think it's a great opportunities for all investors out of Africa. I think that the African Continental Free Trade Agreement will create a huge market. Why? Because, you know, today it's more than 1,200,000,000 inhabitants in the continent. 2050 it will be more than 2 billion. So you imagine a market of 2 billion consumers. That's really a huge market. But we need, if we want to benefit of that market, to have real goods to trade between African countries, because that will really be key to create a real operational free trade agreement and free trade zone. I think that Africa has done a big move in the digital area. Why? Because today all Africans have a cell phone, and we are moving to having more and more smartphones in Africa. So for the African countries to be really digitalized, we need first to reinforce the broadband network in the continent, and I think that countries are really working on it. Many countries are in really up-to-date technologies on that areas. We need, secondly, to create more and more local contents to push people to develop more smartphones. We need to have local industries building more smartphones. Today we have some companies that are working on it, and that's very important, creating cheaper price for access to smartphone. And we need also states to digitalize all the administration. And some countries are really well. We have recently launched through Mazars the Africa Digital Index, which allow us to see how countries are digitalized, and we see that countries are a lot progressing in Africa. But I think that today, I'll say bilateral and even trilateral, because we are talking about Mediterranean of the North countries, North African countries, and Sub-Saharan Africa. I think it's very important because African countries are really reinforcing South-South cooperation. South-South cooperation is reinforced in a period where real opportunities of growth are present in the African continent. In the same moment, there is no more growth in Europe. So it's not a must-have. European companies and countries need absolutely to cooperate with Africa in a business-wise to really have, I'll say, an oxygen market where they can grow again, where they can gain more growth in a period where there is no more growth in Europe. So for me, it's something key today for all investors coming from Europe.